Hey guys, welcome to the elospeaks podcast. If you're listening to me on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening to me on other streaming platforms like Anchor, for example, make sure to follow me and get to get updates when I drop my latest podcast. All right, let's get into it. So right now, I want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. This podcast is going to be strictly on them. I'm going to keep it Lakers centric, and I'm going to say some great things about the Lakers, but majority of it is going to be a lot of bad things about the Lakers. So if you're a Laker fan, then get out your feelings. But if you're a Laker haters, you might like this. If you're just an objective, NBA fan, and Lakers interest you, then this is the right spot for you. So I wanted to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, of course, and I wanted to get into the disaster of the season that has been so far. Now, when it comes to the season, when at the beginning of the year, when everyone saw the Russell Westbrook trade, there was a lot of ballyhoo going about with Russell Westbrook, how they're title contenders with Russell Westbrook, how they have the next big three with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. Now, in my mind, I'm gonna be real, I wasn't too sure about this particular trade. I thought it was a good thing because I thought, damn, Russell Westbrook is going to be a total disaster. Bad shooter, a turnover machine, and he doesn't make smart decisions in the clutch. It's going to be a disaster for Lakers. But at the same time, I looked at it as, damn, is another big three by LeBron James where he formed with two All-Stars to try to win a title again on his third team. So I wasn't sure what to do. So when we get into the disaster, I want to look at the Los Angeles Lakers record right quick, and they're basically a 500 team. They're not good, but they're not bad. That's a good thing to say. Let me see what their record currently is right now, because I think they did lose to the Grizzlies the other night. I understand that Anthony Davis is not healthy, but still, you have two all-star players on your team, so you should be at least in the thick of things in terms of playoffs, and it currently is right now. So they're 21-21, basically 500. They're 11 games back from the first seed. They're the 7th seed right now, but this is disappointing to compare to where they was at 2 years ago, where it was LeBron and Anthony Davis, and they were in the peak of their prime. Well, not particularly the peak of their prime. Anthony Davis was. LeBron James was still a great, phenomenal player in his own right, and they were contending for a title. They had some good pieces around them. They were a good team defensively. Now, granted, I put an asterisk on that title in 2020 because it was a COVID-stricken season, and they had to play in a bubble, so I don't count that championship. I don't care what nobody says. Under regular circumstances, I would not have seen the Lakers coming out the West. I think the Clippers would, but it happened. They was able to play an injured 5th seed Heat team and cruise through that finals, even though it took them 6 games to do that. But they won their asterisk title. Now, the next following season, they had a 2-month break, and then they had to go into the season. They had a slow start. Then they started dealing with injuries, and then they got knocked off in the first round. And then the Russell Westbrook trade happened, and now the beginning of the season, everyone is hyped, everyone is stoked about Russell Westbrook, Brody, the Brow, King in LA. What could happen? And then the first game of the season happened. They go up against the Warriors without Klay Thompson, by the way. No James Wiseman. They're not fully healthy, but they still blow the Lakers out the water, even though Steph Curry was struggling that game. And right there, I should have known that was bad signs to come. Now, with Russell Westbrook, you're going to get good from him, you're going to get bad. I liken Russell Westbrook to like a hurricane. He does a lot of destructive force on opposing teams, but he also does a lot of destructive force on his own team as well. Now, record-wise, I did not see them being 21 and 21. So we're basically literally halfway into the season. It's been 42 games and they're 21-21. I at least expect them to be at least 10 games over 500 to at least battle for at least the top 4 seed in the West. I think everyone expected that from them. I don't think nobody would be saying the Lakers was going to be a 7th or 8th seed. Nobody expected that. I didn't even expect that. I thought they were going to be a little more competitive, to say the least. But we have to understand that LeBron James ain't getting any younger. He just turned 37. Carmelo on the team, Dwight Howard's on the team, DeAndre Jordan, and a whole bunch of other players on that team are really old. There are a lot of old players on the team. There's a few young bodies on the team, like Anthony Davis, Chris Dunn, Malik Monk, so far and so forth. But still, overall, that team is old. They don't move as fast as they used to, and they're susceptible defensively. So that's why teams aren't getting by them and they're not playing good defense. And to be honest, they weren't a good defensive team. Some of the pieces that they had prior, like 2 seasons ago, were the anchor of the defense. But they don't have those pieces no more, so they have what they have. So now the pieces that they do have not sound defensively. And when you have players like LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, who's not known for being a defensive player in his own right, and then you have Carmelo out on the floor, none of these guys are like really sit in the chair and really guard their guys. LeBron James used to do it in 2013, but he kind of slowed down from it. He plays more free safety, more, center court, like, stop the guy from taking it to the rack. But he doesn't guard his man heavy. And then I want to also go on to another thing about coaching. When it comes to the coaching, the roster, the roster depth chart that they have going out there is just not right. It doesn't fit. I understand that you want to put shooters around LeBron James, but you need yourself susceptibility for defenders to come and just eat you guys alive. And that's why they've been struggling so much. And for the coach, who's a defensive coach in his own mind, I thought the Lakers would have been better defensively in their own right. Now I understand that they're older, but still, you would think he would try to figure out a way where he could implement the new guys, the younger guys, to be involved in the lineup to where this would have happened. But it is what it is, and that's where we are right now. Now, I want to get to Russell Westbrook because he's one of the main issues on this team. When it comes to him, he's been a disaster in his own right. I want to go over his stats right quick because it's very alarming to say the least, but it is what it is. So right now in the current regular season, Russell Westbrook is averaging 18 points. He's averaging 8 rebounds and 8 assists. And look at that, he's almost averaging another triple-double. That's a good thing and a bad thing. Now, let me see what the good thing is. The good thing about it is he's producing. He's, getting points, getting rebounds, getting assists. He's being active on the court. The problem is this whole triple-double stuff got to go. Like, nobody cares about it no more. I feel like, me personally, Russell Westbrook made the triple-double irrelevant. He made it pointless. He made it meaningless. When he did it the first time, it was a feel-good moment because KD left to go to the Golden State Warriors, and nobody has averaged a triple-double since Oscar Robertson, so he deserved that MVP. When he did it the second time, it was like, damn, Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double for the second year in a row. Nobody's ever done that. Wow, congratulations to him. Got knocked off in the first round of the playoffs again. And then he goes and averages a triple-double for the third time in a row, which is impressive in his own right. But then that was cool in the regular season. You go to the playoffs, get knocked off in the first round again, and now it's like, okay, triple-double stuff, it was cool, but we need to start producing wins, we need to start seeing production, we need to start seeing some title hopes. And Russell Westbrook has played with Paul George, James Harden, and other players to where he has some talent around him to at least make it to the second round. Now, granted, in the 2020 season, he made it to the second round for his very first time with the Rockets with James Harden. But we all know that team was not going to win an NBA title. Nobody thought that, unless you're a Rockets fan. But I digress. So when it came to that, in my mind, the triple-double charade was dead. I didn't care about it. It was whatever. Every time I see Russ stat line and he drop a triple-double, I scoff at it because it's meaningless. At the end of the day, did you win the game? Now, granted, he was winning in the regular season, but when it came to the playoffs and he had to play against steeper competition and it was honing in on his weaknesses, that triple-double thing went away and nobody cares about it, and he got scrutinized for it, rightfully so. So again, great stat line, but it's not producing wins. So I also wanted to get into another stat line. I know it's been beaten over a dead horse when it comes to Russell Westbrook, but his turnover ratio, he's like turning over the ball at a scary, alarming rate, and I think something needs to be done about that. So he's averaging 4.4 turnovers again. I've watched the Lakers highlights and I've seen games where Russell Westbrook was averaging at least 6 turnovers, and then I've seen games where he had 9 turnover games, and then I've seen one where he had 10 turnovers. In all my years of watching basketball, I've never seen where a player had 10 turnovers and the coach still kept him in the game. Usually you would have got yanked for turning over the ball that much times, but because Russ is a all-star in his own right, he's gonna get away with those type of things. But again, those type of things are gonna lose you games. And to set that precedent and let Russ know that you have to take care of the basketball. If you don't put him straight and check him, he's going to continue doing what he's doing and think it's okay. And I watched some of his interviews with the media after games, and he has a nonchalant attitude like, if we win a title, it's great. If we don't, it's whatever. And that's not a type of attitude I would want if I was a Lakers fan. But it is what it is. I would have been pissed off. I would have said, this is the reason why you're not a champion. This is the reason why you never went back to the NBA Finals. This is the reason why Kevin Durant left OKC and didn't want to play with you anymore. And he's justified in doing so. Everyone went down on KD's throat saying, oh, KD's a snake, KD's a coward, KD was wrong. And if you want to call KD a coward for going to the Golden State Warriors, I understand that. My personal take on KD going to the Warriors, was it a cowardly move? To some degree, yeah, but in hindsight, he made the right decision because he's a 2-time champion. He got that championship monkey off his back. He was able to win rings, so he's not going to be in that in that list of great players who never won a championship. So he was justifying the decision. And to be honest, if he had stayed at OKC and continued to play with Russell Westbrook, he would have never, ever won a championship. So again, he is justified in his decision in leaving. Now, the team that he left for, we could question and scrutinize that all day. But in terms of just leaving OKC and leaving Russell Westbrook, totally justified. So that's my opinion on that. Now, since we went over how Russell Westbrook is being a total disaster, I want to switch to another point, and that is Russell Westbrook's legacy right now as an overall player. Now, when Russell Westbrook was playing for the OKC Thunders and KD left, and he was averaging triple doubles, winning MVPs, going to the All-Star game, and getting knocked out in the first round, people didn't think much of it because the first year, nobody thought they was going to contend for a title. Better than make playoffs. But people was wrong. They ended up making playoffs. He ended up winning MVP, becoming an all-star, etc. And then after that, he did it again, made the playoffs another year in a row. So people was like, just put some talent around Russell Westbrook. He could possibly elevate them. Maybe they could contend for a title. They gave him Carmelo Anthony and they gave him Paul George, and he still wasn't able to do nothing with that. They basically traded Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. That was a horrible decision, but I understand it. James Harden and Chris Paul didn't. They just didn't click well. They played great on the court. Don't get me wrong, they did, but it's just mentality wise. He just wanted Chris Paul on the team, and he wanted to play with his friend. But that also didn't work too. So they ended up trading him to the Wizards, and then that Wizards was a disaster. I give them credit. They made it to the first round of playoffs, but still, that was a disaster in his own self. And whatever team Russell Westbrook plays for, that team ended up becoming a disaster. Hence, the Lakers being a disaster right now with him on the team. So, his legacy over the years since KD's left have taken a huge hit, and now playing with the Los Angeles Lakers is going to take an even bigger hit than it has before, because when you were playing in OKC, that's a small market team where the media is not too ferocious like New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami. So you ain't really had to worry about the backlash, the scrutiny, everybody honing on your negative plays, your turnovers and stuff like that. Russell Westbrook could have had 10 turnovers, 9 turnover games, shoot 4 for 20 on a Tuesday night in OKC and go to bed comfortably knowing that nobody's going to care. But when you're playing in Los Angeles for the Lakers, next to LeBron James, and you have a 2 for 20 game, that's not going to slide. Or you're having a game where you have like 10 turnovers, that's going to be magnified tenfold. Everyone is going to see that because millions of people are watching the game. There's a lot of Laker fans. I have friends and families that are Laker fans. I have church members that are Laker fans. I don't even stay in LA. And there are an abundance of Lakers fans all over throughout the United States, throughout the country, throughout other countries. There are Laker fans. That's how big the brand is. So when Russell Westbrook is playing for his quote-unquote home team, because he's from LA, he played for UCLA, and then you're playing this poorly for the Lakers and you don't care, that's not going to slide with the media, and that's definitely not going to slide with the fans. I don't know how Janae Buss and the front office are looking at it, but they need to strongly consider trading Russell Westbrook or benching him or making some type of roster move to configure this roster, because at the rate that Russell Westbrook is playing, it's not working. He's a poor shooter. He's a horrible 3-point shooter. He's slightly below average at free throws. He turns over the ball at an enormous rate. He's a bad defender. And the Lakers overall as a team are bad defensively, so he doesn't help at all. Anthony Davis is hurt, and he was supposed to be their defensive anchor, but he's been so defensively too. But I'm gonna get into that later on down the podcast. But I want to harp on this Russell Westbrook situation, because we thought LeBron James could possibly negate the negative effects of Russell Westbrook, but it's not looking like he can. I've been watching other sports media shows like Undisputed First Take, and they're shocked as well, because they're like, damn, LeBron James is playing great over the stretch of the past 10 games, averaging 30 points, over 30 points, and 10 rebounds and 10 assists, but he's still losing games. And Russell Westbrook, as his second superstar, because Anthony Davis is out, is not helping. And if Russell Westbrook is not helping, that means he's hindering. And if he's hindering, you already know what the GM is going to do about it. He's going to try to solve that issue, because LeBron James' legacy is on the line too. And if they happen to miss playoffs or have to play in the play-in tournament and then miss the playoffs like that, lose a game, be one and done, you know how bad that is going to be for LeBron James' legacy? It's going to be horrible. And if they're in the play-in tournament and they somehow win, they're going to have to go up against a first seed Warriors team or a second seed Suns team. And I guarantee those teams are going to beat the Lakers in 5. they're chopping at the bit for the Lakers. Everyone is chopping at the bit for the Lakers because I don't even see the Lakers beating the Utah Jazz if they were to make the 6th seed. Or I can't even see the Lakers beating the Memphis Grizzlies right now. The Memphis Grizzlies are not a bad team by any stretch. They're a great, phenomenal team with young talent with John Morant, and I could see the Grizzlies beating them in 6. When I mean beating the Lakers team, I mean beating a fully healthy Laker team. I don't care who you have on the floor. If the Lakers are playing garbage like that on the court, they're going to lose to any of those 4 teams I just mentioned. They have no shot if they're going to continue to play like that. So Russell Westbrook legacy overall is getting tarnished. He's making he has slightly been close to averaging a triple-double. If he does that for the Los Angeles Lakers, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care at all, because the fact that you're 21-21 in the season and we're halfway through it, you're playing this poorly. Those stat lines are meaningless. They're empty calories. You're just stat stuffing, and nobody cares about that. Nobody's proud of you. You drop all these garbage numbers and you're playing so poor and garbage like this. So that's the conundrum that the Lakers find themselves in. So the next topic I wanted to get into is what the Lakers need to do before the trade deadline. So I see originally that the Lakers wanted to get Damian Lillard. I think that was of course off the table. I doubt Portland Trail Blazers was going to trade Damian Lillard to the Lakers I don't think it mattered what they were going to get in return. They was not going to trade. But Damian Lillard is injured right now, so that's out of the question. I've been seeing media news rumors that the Lakers have been trying to shop Russell Westbrook, but the problem with that is, what are you going to get back for Russell Westbrook? You're not going to get adequate value for him. And 2, who's going to take that horrible contract? Nobody's going to take that contract to pay him $41 million for this year, and then you got to pay him $47 million the next year. No way. Anyway, no smart title contending team is going to do that. So the Lakers are kind of screwed in that situation. But what they could do is try to just trade him for shooters in depth, like get like a big or defensive player, get some shooters around LeBron James, or try to get like a point guard that's younger, not gonna turn over the ball, and just gonna be a good shooter, because you already know LeBron James like to monopolize the ball and be de facto point guard. So basically, you kind of need a shooting guard, and Russ is not it, especially for this team and the way LeBron James play. I already knew Russell Westbrook's stats were gonna go down playing for LeBron James, but I didn't think his turnovers was gonna be like this. I thought LeBron James was gonna monopolize the ball to the point where, I understand like where Russell's stats are gonna go down, but it's still gonna be impactful for where they can win games. I started to see that Russell Westbrook is starting to lose his athleticism, so I'm not sure what else he could do. He's not been finishing to the basket at the ferocity like I used to see him back in his old days. They're literally, every time he's at the wing to shoot a 3, defenders are literally turning their back and walking away from him while he shoots. Totally disrespectful, but I understand it, because you basically Russell Westbrook shoots 3 for like 10, so it's like a 3%. It's like a 3% chance he'll make that. So I'll take my chances and try to get the rebound. So that's just the type of disrespect that Russell Westbrook been getting. But that's partly his fault, because you're the professional athlete that's been shooting poorly like that. So it's up to you to basically try and shoot above average, where defenders are going to take you seriously. So yeah, I think they need to trade Russell Westbrook, but it's just, what could they trade him for, and what team is dumb enough to get him? Because over the past 42 games, everyone saw what we've been seeing for Russell Westbrook. Poor basketball IQ, low shooting, bad decision maker, but I just don't see where a landing spot he could get to that could make the Los Angeles Lakers better and they could get rid of Russ at the same time. And let's just hypothetically say that they do get rid of Russell Westbrook. Does that make the Lakers better? Do you feel like they're going to be the title contenders? Because LeBron James is still 37. Anthony Davis, even though he's young himself, he's still injury prone. We don't know when he comes back. Is he going to be the same? Is he going to be better? God forbid, when he might get injured again. So the Lakers are dealing with a lot of issues right now where it's just they're not like a team that we all thought they're going to be at the beginning of the season when this roster was first reconstruction, and they made a whole bunch of trades. But it is what it is. They could change up the roster, try to make some trades, not just for us, but other pieces. I think the untradables, obviously LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I don't see what's out there for them in free agency that they could get. Getting DeAndre Jordan in free agency was a total disaster. There was a reason that the Nets let him go. I think he's just out there, just a big body. I don't think he has the same skills that he did 5-10 years ago when he was playing for the Clippers. And that just happens with age, because he's in his 30s as well. So that's unfortunate for him. But they just got to do what they got to do. I just see that the whole team overall been playing poor defensively. They've moved LeBron James to center for a better small ball lineup to space out the floor. While it is effective on the offensive, but it's horrible defensively. Teams are able to drive through the basket with better ease because there's no big man to contest them at the basket. As soon as they beat their man one-on-one, there's just a free reign to the rim, which is not good. But even if LeBron James wasn't at center and they moved Dwight Howard or DeAndre Jordan at center, that's still bad defensively, because if they get him on a pick and roll and they have a point guard and on Dwight Howard or DeAndre Jordan, that's barbecue chicken right there. That's easy cross up or pick and roll to the basket. So it's basically pick your poison with that. When you have LeBron James as your center and team, you're beating down bad, because now you have to put Russ at point guard, and you don't run Russ at point guard. All right, so I know that I spent almost 30 minutes basically like trashing Russ, but I want to give to the upsides of having Russ on the team. Now, it's not a lot, but here it is. So when it comes to Russ on your team, the good thing I do see about him is he does have an endless motor. He gives you 120%. He's a hustler. He doesn't cheat you. He plays for every possession. He's going to give you high minutes. He's not injury prone. And he's very productive, whether it's good or negative. So that's the good with Russell Westbrook. The only problem is, can you win games for that? And that's what all the media prognosticators thought. They thought all the negatives that came with Russell Westbrook, LeBron James was going to able to mitigate that and elevate Russ to possibly a better level stat-wise. But we never thought that his turnover ratio would be this bad. And some of these turnovers I watched for Russell Westbrook is just like, he's just so sloppy with the ball. Like he makes dumb decisions. And if he would just cut down on his turnovers just a little bit, so maybe like 3 turnovers a game, like, I understand, you're not going to be perfect, keep 0, but come on, like, you need to take better care of the ball. When your average is 10 turnovers, you're basically putting your team in a hole. And because the Lakers are not good defensively, I'm pretty sure teams are capitalizing off those. Hey guys, welcome to the elospeaks podcast on Anchor, where I talk about everything sports such as NBA, NFL, UFC, etc., and give my perspective and opinions on the sports topics that interest me. I love talking about sports, debating with people on certain teams, players, news, and more, while having a great dialogue doing so. So giving my take on a matter that interests me. Make sure to follow me on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Twitch to get updates from my latest podcast when I drop. Stay tuned, thank you, and enjoy. Alright, welcome back. We had some technical difficulties, but we're back. So the next topic I wanted to talk about was Anthony Davis and the Lakers' long-term future regarding him as the Lakers' power forward. Now, in terms of Anthony Davis, I wanted to talk about what's going to happen in the long-term future because me personally, I don't see the Lakers moving forward with him as the long-term answer. I feel like as a championship contending team, Anthony Davis is just not that guy for number one. If he's your number one option on your team, I don't see you guys winning a championship at all. He just don't have the makeup of the number one alpha to help win a championship, and that's just my opinion. He has number one talent, but his mental is just out of there. He's okay with being the number two, and there's nothing wrong with that if you're comfortable. But obviously, you've seen from when he was in New Orleans Pelicans, he had some certain talent around him to try to contend, but it just wasn't enough for him to win a championship. So he forced his way out of New Orleans to go to LA and win a bubble championship. But that's not the issue. His talent-wise, that's not the issue. Even though he's been struggling earlier this season when he was playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, my only issue is his health. And will he be able to make it through this season? Because he's already injured right now, and we don't know how he's going to come back from this injury. Will he be better? Will he be worse? He was already not playing too good before the injury, so we don't know how that's going to affect the team overall. I mean, it's always going to be a great addition for him to come back because the Lakers need the help. They're basically 500 right now, but what is his impact going to be when he comes back from his injury? Will he continue to stay healthy? Will he possibly get injured again? Those are the questions you got to ask yourself as a Laker fan because it's looking really bleak right now. If the Lakers continue to lose and not take care of business playing these games, they could possibly miss the playoffs. And that's going to be a damper on Anthony Davis' legacy too, because people were looking at him as one of the top 5 power forwards of all time at the pace that he was going. Not saying that he's there already, but at the pace that he was going, they was going to look at him up there with the likes of Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, KG, etc. But the way that he's been playing is just not there. So nobody knows what's going on. I don't think the Lakers are going to. I think the Lakers should move forward, after try to win as much as you can with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. But once LeBron James retired, I think the team should blow up because Anthony Davis is just not that guy that's going to carry your team into title contention at all. I know that Anthony Davis is the best physically gifted player on the team currently right now. Even though LeBron James is playing amazing, he's the catalyst. He's what's carrying his team to potential title hopes. But when LeBron James is not there, if you're relying on Anthony Davis to try to win a title for you, you're in big trouble because his injury history prior shows that most likely he's not going to stay healthy. And I'm not hoping that he gets injured. I hope he stays healthy. Wish him the best of luck. Knock on wood. But it's just not looking good for him in terms of health-wise. Because if he's getting hurt frequently like this in his late 20s, How's it gonna look when he's in his 30s? When the balls they're not gonna bounce back and recover like how they used to be. And for a guy that his height and stature, when you get injured ankles, knees, it takes a lot longer to heal. So that's why I was at the long term with Anthony Davis as regards to health. I just don't see it. And what possible pieces could you build around him where he could contend for a title? I know Russ is not the answer. Russ is struggling playing with LeBron James, and LeBron James is playing amazing. So when LeBron James retired anytime soon in the next couple of years, and it's just Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis, that team's going to be a disaster. Because we already know when LeBron James comes on the team has to revolve around him. All the pieces are set up to best elevate his style of play. Now you take LeBron James out that system, yeah, you have two All-Stars on the team, but they're so used to LeBron James orchestrating and running everything. Now that he's gone and everybody has to play for themselves, everybody's going to do what they best do. But if the chemistry is not there, the team is going to play horrible. And that's how usually the LeBron James teams have been since the late 2000 Cleveland Cavalier teams. But I digress. So another thing I wanted to talk about, speaking of LeBron James, is his great stretch despite still losing games. So I wanted to talk about the run that LeBron James has been on. LeBron James has been playing great lately. He's been averaging 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. Great stat line. Shooting 52% from the field. Amazing. But they're still losing games despite those great numbers. LeBron James 5 years ago, or 10 years ago actually, they would have been blowing teams out the water with those stat line numbers. Been blowing teams out the water. But LeBron James is elevating to an age to where even playing with Russell Westbrook, those numbers are not good enough to win games. Especially when you have a point guard such as Russell Westbrook that's hampering you down to such a degree where he makes bad, stupid turnovers, and it puts your team in a hole defensively where now that lead that you had that was a 5-point lead turns into a 1-point lead, turns into a 2-point deficit, turns into a 5-point deficit, then it turns into a 10-point deficit, and you lose the game. So when it comes to that, it's great. People have been saying that LeBron James should be in the MVP picture. I don't think so. You could have him in your MVP conversation, but he's not going to be in my MVP conversation because they're losing. And yes, his stat line is great with top players such as Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, Giannis, but their teams are winning. Their teams are on the top of the West, and they're contending for playoff spots, while LeBron James and the Lakers are just surviving to be in the playoffs in the 7th or 8th seed. So that just shows you the stark difference of where those teams are and where the Lakers are in terms of winning. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So the next question I wanted to ask is, can the Lakers turn around their season? And my personal opinion, I think the answer is no. Well, scratch that. I think the answer is maybe. Let's see when Anthony Davis comes back, how will the Lakers respond? Fully healthy with the big three. If they're able to respond back, they could possibly make a push for maybe the 5th or 4th seed. But I don't see them going no higher than that. But again, currently they're 20 and 20. They're 21 and 21. So when Anthony Davis comes back and they're still playing like this, then I don't see the Lakers turning around at all, because you are what your record says you are. So if you're an average team now, chances are you're gonna be an average team later. So they were already losing games with Anthony Davis healthy at the time before he got hurt, but now it's just is just worse now because we don't know what's the circumstances with Anthony Davis. I haven't heard no word of his return. It's almost been a month since he got hurt, and Russell Westbrook is not getting any better. LeBron James is not getting any older, even though he's playing phenomenal for his age and the year he's in the NBA. 19 years in the NBA, still dominating, but they're losing games. So nobody fears the Lakers as a team, as a title contender team, a threat. Again, if they go up against Golden State Warriors, they're going to get blown off the water. If they go up against the Suns, they're going to get blown off the water. If they go up against the Utah Jazz, they're going to get beat. So again, the Lakers got to do something to turn around their season. If they can't, then questions are going to start getting answered. And you already know how LeBron James is. He's cutthroat with it. He's just as grimy as those GMs are in the league. If he sees a problem, he's going to fix it. And he's going to fix it fast. Whatever trade, who he needs to get rid of, cut to make the team better, to increase his legacy, to get him closer to winning a title, he's going to do it. So that's what I think of it. Now, next thing, I know I kind of briefly talked about it, but will the Lakers miss playoffs? And to be honest, that's possible. It's possible. If they do, it will be a shame. If they do, I don't think they're gonna miss the playoffs. But if they do, then that would be disappointing, especially for the amount of talent that they have. Even though they're older, like LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony. If they would have missed a playoff, that would be a shame because you have talent on your team to where you should be able to contend for a title. You shouldn't be missing the playoffs. If they're anywhere from the 7th or 8th seed, people would expect that of them currently at the moment right now, based off what their record is showing. But if they're a 9th seed, 10th seed, 11th or 12th, and they're playing this poorly, and they miss the playoffs completely, that's a damn shame. And that's going to be a hit on LeBron James' legacy. It's going to be a hit on Russell Westbrook's legacy. And it's for sure going to be a hit on Anthony Davis' legacy. Because there's no way they should be missing playoffs. No way. And I don't care that Anthony Davis is hurt. We all knew he has an injury history and he could possibly get hurt anytime because he's so fragile. But even when Anthony Davis is out of the Lakers lineup being hurt, you still have 2 stars on your team with Russell Westbrook and LeBron James. And I don't care how bad Russell Westbrook is playing. He's still a star. He still did great things prior. I know people wish you would have been doing great with the Lakers right now, but it is what it is. You're gonna have to deal with it. They still should be better than majority than teams like that they're playing up against. There's no way that they should be losing to the Kings, the Timberwolves. There's no way that they should be losing to these type of guys. No way. They should be winning those type of games. And the worst part about it is the Los Angeles Lakers had an easy schedule at the beginning of the season, and then towards the end, they're going to have a rougher schedule towards the end. So there's a chance that they could miss playoffs. I don't think they're going to miss playoffs, but if they do miss playoffs, that'll be unfortunate and disappointing because I think the NBA is interesting with them on a team. They are an interesting cast of characters. LeBron James is always interesting. Russell Westbrook in himself is an interesting player. And if they would have missed the playoffs, that's just a damn shame on their part. But if they do miss the playoffs, it is what it is. If the playoffs is the best 16 teams in the league, and if they're not good enough to make the playoffs, then hey, better luck next year. Make some roster moves. Do what you got to do to come back better next year. Trade who you got to trade. Do what you got to do. I know LeBron James is going to do what he got to do to make his team better. I know that for sure. So that's what I think about that. And we're down to our last topic. What's the future for the Lakers the next couple of seasons? And personally, I have no idea. This whole season for them so far has been a dumpster fire. Straight garbage juice for them. Straight up. If you told me at the beginning of the year that the Los Angeles Lakers were going to be a sub 500 team in a 7th seed, I probably would have laughed. But now we're here right now with the Lakers record, despite LeBron James having MVP numbers, Russell Westbrook turning over the ball at an alarming rate, shooting terribly, Anthony Davis shooting the ball poorly as ever. My mistake. Anthony Davis being injured like we kind of expected, but we was hoping that would be wrong. But he's being injured, Russ playing bad, LeBron James playing great, and it's just a whole cluster of like mess with the Lakers. The Lakers are old, they're bad defensively, all this, and this whole podcast, it just shows that like this whole Lakers season has been a disaster. I don't know what's going on in the front office. I'm not sure what they're planning on doing before the trade deadline, because if they keep this roster before the trade deadline intact, then they're going to be in major trouble. Because the fact that you were shopping Russell Westbrook in trade rumors and nobody was really biting on it just shows you how dire the situation is right now. I don't know what LeBron James is going to do, because at his current age and the year that he's playing in, he's dropping great numbers, but you can't keep doing this every game. Dropping almost 30 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, playing almost 40 minutes a game. So sooner or later, once you get to the playoffs, that's going to weigh on you, because now you're going to be facing tougher defensive competition every round of the playoffs, and then like that gets tiring, especially in a grueling 7-game series. It gets tiring, and you don't want to do that every game before the playoffs. You shouldn't be having to drop those type of numbers playing 40 plus minutes against Orlando, Minnesota, like just sorry teams like that. You're supposed to be blowing those teams out under 30 minutes and then resting in the first quarter. That's just me. That's just what I think. But it's not happening that way, because you get you have Russell Westbrook turning over the ball at an alarming rate. You're playing poor defense. So those type of teams that you should be beating with ease are always gonna be there to contend, to possibly win, because you're not taking care of the ball and you're not executing on defense. You're not sitting in that chair and guarding your guys. So it is what it is when it comes to that. I just wanted to make this particular podcast for the Los Angeles Lakers, because these are all the thoughts that I had in my head when I was talking about writing this, because I just like, damn, like a lot of Laker fans that I have as acquaintances were talking so much trash to me. And now that they're playing the way that they're playing, they're basically shocked and silent. And it's funny to see. It kind of humbled all the Lakers fans, especially in LA. It humbled the Lakers fans. It humbled the Lakers fans, because now I see so much people turning on Russ. All the Laker fandom are turning on Russ, saying that he's garbage. All these people that were praising Russell Westbrook are turning on him. All the people that were loving him, praising him, saying Brody, oh, he's going to turn around. Oh, we got the Brody, you got the King, we got the Brown. All these people are now turning on Russ because they're starting to see his flaws. And his flaws are ugly. They're starting to see it, and they hate it, because now those flaws are affecting the team and they're losing games. And like I said before, when you're playing for a big market franchise such as LA, New York, Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, etc., those media people are savages. Any type of bad game you have is going to be highlighted, and especially bad in the New York media. I heard the New York media is like terrible. They go after you when you had a bad game. So I can't imagine what Russell Westbrook is going to having to deal with the media, not like how it was back in OKC or Washington. So it is what it is. But that's all I have for tonight. So, all right, guys, we're close to the end of the podcast. I want to thank you for listening. Tell me what you think. Do you agree or disagree with any of my takes? Let me know down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like and subscribe on your way out. Follow me on all my other social media platforms if you do, such as my Twitch, my Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, etc. And make sure you like on your way out. I'm elospeaks, and I'm out. Peace.